Hello everyone and welcome to All Things Watched. In this video we are going to talk about the brand new movie I.S.S, which simply stands for International Space Station, and this was a very small, well-grounded movie which literally only contained 6 cast members: Ariana DeBose, Chris Messina, Masha Mashkova, Pailu Asbake, I believe is how you pronounce his name, Costa Ronan, and John Gallagher Jr. And of course, essentially, each of these cast members ends up portraying characters which are astronauts, and there are 6 characters, and there are 6 different astronauts, 3 from America and 3 from Russia. And so the idea is that while the 6 of these astronauts are up on the ISS, a war ends up breaking out on Earth between America and Russia. And of course, here in the ISS station, you have 3 American astronauts and 3 Russian astronauts. And so, of course, the conflict up in the space station, or the smaller internal conflict that happens, is that both governments ends up radioing their astronauts, telling them that they need to take over the ISS at all costs. So when the American government goes to war with the Russian government, the American government ends up radioing, their 3 astronauts, telling them they need to take the ISS, and then of course the Russian government ends up radioing their 3 astronauts, telling them the same thing. They need to try to take the ISS, and that creates sort of this little internal conflict, while there's a much bigger conflict happening down on the Earth. So one thing that I can give credit to with this movie, I did think the movie looked really good visually. I thought the special effects were done pretty well, and I even thought the story itself was a very interesting, very compelling type story. Something I haven't actually seen before. I just thought it was a really cool idea to have these astronauts up in space who are supposed to be mutual and working together, and very likely have become family at this point, because it's such a small area, such a small group of astronauts who are probably working with each other months at a time, if not maybe, well, I would imagine months at a time, because I would assume they would have to come back down after so long to sort of readjust to Earth's gravity and all that stuff. So I just thought it was really interesting to have this small internal conflict while back on Earth their governments are fighting each other. So it's very interesting to see what would it almost makes you ask yourself that question: what would you do in that situation if your government ordered you, when technically speaking neither government really has any control over what's happening on the ISS, because neither one of the governments are actually up there. They're both down on Earth, and they're just simply radioing their astronauts and telling them what they need to do. And so I really thought that idea was very interesting. And also, there's a couple times in the movie as well when you can actually see the Earth from their perspective, from the ISS, and you can see the bombs, and you can see the world slowly but surely get destroyed. And basically, by the end of the movie, it seems like a majority of the world is just in utter destruction, but not the entire world. There are still places in the Earth that were not touched by the looks of it, at least towards the end of it. But you can tell all the major, North American areas, European areas, were all very much impacted by this war between the Americans and the Russians, because obviously both sides end up shooting off nuclear bombs and all that good stuff. Now, in terms of the cast, I thought the casts were done really well, and I thought some of the characters were interesting, but not necessarily all of them. I was actually more interested in the Russian characters more so than the American. I really liked Costa Ronan's character, Nikolai. I thought he was very interesting, as well as Masha Mashkova. Her character, she portrayed a character known as Veronica Vetrov, and I thought that she was a really cool character, and she was actually probably the most realistic character of them all. I think she seemed to be the most level-headed, and she was the one that seemed to have the best head on her shoulders in this terrible situation, especially once the governments from both sides give this order. It seemed like she was the most realistic. She was very neutral, very mutual, and very much like, well, we could try to kill each other, or we could just work it out and not kill each other. And so she sort of ends up making an alliance with one of the American astronauts, Dr. Kira Foster, who was portrayed by Ariana DeBose, who also did a great job with her character. But I think probably the standout was Chris Messiana, who portrays the American astronaut Gordon Barrett, and Masha Mashkova. I think those two were the standouts in this movie. So, it was really cool to see how their trust was tested, their loyalties were tested, and to some degree, even their personal relationships in terms of, who are you more loyal to, the people that you've been working with for the past, however many months, or your government who is down on the earth, blowing up another country. So I really liked the idea, and I really liked how they played into that, and how it also affected each astronaut very differently, their perspectives. Some of them, the chaos sort of changes some of them. Some of them stay very true to who they are. Some of them don't believe that they should be fighting each other. Some of them can't wait to start fighting each other. So I just thought that that whole idea of this, because to some degree you could say everything on the earth is external, so you have this huge external conflict going on between these countries, which then affects this internal conflict, and this internal group of people. And I just thought it was a really clever idea. So in terms of, what did I think of the movie itself, like, was it a good movie? I would say it was I would say it was an okay movie. It's not a movie that I'm probably going to remember or go back and watch for a second time, but it was a movie that kept me entertained while I was watching it. So if I were to put a number on this movie, I'd probably give it like 60%, because I did thoroughly enjoy it more than what I didn't, but not enough to the point where, I'm going to be watching it again anytime. I'll probably never watch this movie ever again, but I did have a lot of fun watching it. Chris Messina is, becoming slowly but surely one of my favorite actors. I really liked him when he played in that, I believe it was an Apple Plus original series based on a true story, and I think it was him and Kaylee Kuko, I believe, was the co-star with that one, and that was a really fun series, and I really liked him in that. So he is slowly becoming one of my favorite actors, and I thought he did a great job in this one as well. And I think they used him really well, because I think he was probably one of the bigger stars in this movie, and I just really liked how they used him. Although Masha Mashkova is a pretty big star as well. But anyways, folks, that's my review of the I.S.S. So let me know in the comment section below if you've seen it, and if you'd like to tell me why or why not. If you like this video, click the subscribe button. And until the next one, take care.